Today's incident is a mind-boggling mystery. There were two identical twin brothers whose faces looked exactly the same. What made it even more astonishing was that the girls they married were also identical twin sisters, with matching faces too. After the wedding, when the brides came to their husband's home, they mistakenly ended up in the rooms of their brothers-in-law instead of their actual husbands. The wedding night passed, and when morning arrived, both brothers realized that the woman they had spent the night with wasn't their wife but their sister-in-law. Fearing society's reaction, all four of them quietly sat down in their rooms to make a decision so shocking, it will leave you stunned. What did they do? Did they start enjoying the mix-up? Did they begin switching wives every night? Or did they change their marriages altogether? To know the astonishing decision made by the four of them, stay with us till the end of this story. In a small rural village, where the scent of the earth filled the muddy paths and people leaned on each other for support, mornings began with women lighting their stoves, and men sweating it out in the fields. On the edge of this village lived two twin brothers, Rafian and Farfan, young, strong, kind-hearted and astonishingly identical. No difference, no distinguishing marks. Even they themselves would stand before the mirror and wonder, am I Rafian or Farfan? At first, their identical looks were a source of fun and laughter in the village. People joked and enjoyed it, but the brothers never minded. As time passed and they grew older, a longing began to take root in their hearts. If only we could get married too. If only someone would one day beautify her scarf just for us. Their parents had passed away in their childhood. The only relative they had left was Khala Rashida, their maternal aunt, who raised them like a mother. Every day she prayed, my nephews are like sons to me. If they get married, my soul will finally be at peace. But the villagers were wary. Khala, their faces are exactly the same. What if one daughter ends up spending the night with the other's husband? These words would bring tears to Khala's eyes, and the brothers would quietly lower their gaze. They didn't just want to marry, they wanted someone who would understand their hearts, see their souls, not just their faces. Rafian always remembered the girl who used to cover her head shyly every time she fetched water from the well. Farfan recalled the smile that a girl once gave in the neighborhood. A moment etched in his heart, but life had boxed all those dreams into a single word: impossible. Then one night, when all hope seemed lost, fate turned the page. Two hearts, identical in pain and longing, were about to meet. It was a silent night. Stars draped across the sky. Ashes in the clay oven still held a faint warmth. Khala Rashida sat in her corner, silently rolling her prayer beads. With a heavy sigh, she wrapped her shawl and stepped out. Her steps were slow but her will was strong. She was headed towards a sliver of hope. After crossing several bends, she reached a small hut, the home of twin sisters, Nashira and Nashwa. Their story was much like Rafian and Farfan's, their faces so alike that even their mother identified them by voice. She knocked on the door. An elderly woman answered. Khala Rashida, at this hour? Hamida sister, I've brought a proposal for your nieces, Khala said gently. My twin sons are simple souls, lonely by fate. Hamida went quiet for a moment, then let her in. In one corner of the courtyard, Nashira and Nashwa sat quietly, eyes lowered under their scarves, but hearts eager to hear Khala's words. When Khala Rashida spoke about her son's hard-working hands and lonely hearts, the sisters' hidden sorrow shimmered in their eyes as tears. Hamida softly replied, we've received many proposals, Khala. But every time we heard the same thing, if the girls look alike, how will the boys know who is who? Khala's eyes filled with tears. She gently said, that's the pain of our home too. If our children look alike, does that mean their hearts are the same too? They don't recognize love by face, they recognize it by feeling. That very day, when Nashira looked out of the window, she saw Rafian for the first time. Though his face was like his brother's, her heart instantly recognized him. And when Nashwa heard Farfan's name, a locked door in her heart quietly opened. The news spread across the village. People were shocked, puzzled, but for these four hearts, it was the first time when fate, not faces, was going to decide their future. When Khala Rashida returned, Her face held the peace that only mothers know, and the peace that comes when their children's loneliness finds a name. Sweetness filled the village air. Quiet alleys began to glow with colors. Clothes fluttered on ropes in Kala's courtyard. Lime painted the mud walls, and a rare joy lit her face. It felt like, after years, their hearts had learned to beat for someone else. Nashira and Nashwa sat silently, putting on bangles, and no questions, no complaints, just a quiet hope in their eyes. Maybe soon, our names too will be joined with someone else's. The wedding date was set. The entire village was in awe. Twin brothers marrying twin sisters. How will anyone tell who belongs to whom? But Kala Rashida would just smile and say, "Hearts recognize, not faces." Finally, the day arrived. The village had never seen such a sight. Two grooms and Sehra, two veiled brides, and a confused crowd sitting before the Maulvi Sahib. When the nikah happened, Rafian and Farfan both said Kulhai in unison, and no one could tell whose voice was whose. The wedding was complete. Relationships were sealed, but identities, they still remained uncertain. Night fell. The silence was deep. Rafian entered his room, his heart pounding. He looked at the veiled bride in front of him and paused. Is she mine? Or did I come to the wrong room? On the other side, Farfan also lifted the scarf. The face looked familiar yet uncertain. Meanwhile, Nashira and Nashwa were lost in similar thoughts. Is this really my husband? Or his brother? That night, which should have been memorable, became a haunting question. The man I'm with, is he really mine? The night passed, but the turmoil in their hearts did not. 4 souls scattered across 4 rooms. Marriage had taken place. Bonds were made, but the true recognition still wandered lost. Rafian sat before the woman whose veil he himself had lifted, but every time he saw her face, his heart kept whispering the same question. Is she really my wife, or am I sitting beside my sister-in-law? He looked at her, then quickly looked away. When she reached for his hand, Rafian recoiled, afraid to touch a delicate truth that might shatter everything. Farfan, too, spent the night listening closely to his wife's voice, tone, and words, trying to find a clue. But everything reminded him of both Nashira and Nashwa. If this is not my wife, he thought, and I become close to her, then I've committed a sin. A wave of shame surged through him. He felt like every wall, every curtain, every gust of air was watching him, as if they all knew the weight in his heart. Nashira tried to convince herself that the wedding has taken place. This must be my husband. But his eyes, his walk, all reminded her of someone else. Is this really Farfan? Nashwa's tears soaked the pillow. If he's the wrong man, then what is my fault? And if he's mine, why doesn't my heart feel at peace? They endured everything, but it was just a ritual completed where bodies may have united, but souls were still lost somewhere. Weeks had passed since the wedding, but the questions within their hearts were growing stronger with each passing day. Rafian and Farfan had resumed their work. Village life, meeting people, laughter, hard work, everything remained the same on the surface, but the peace within their hearts was lost. Each morning when Rafian and Farfan opened their eyes, a strange heaviness would descend on their chests. Memories of the night would float before their eyes as questions. Did I sleep with my wife, or, by mistake, have I been spending each night with my sister-in-law? When Rafian returned from work, he tried to look at his wife's face, but every time her identity seemed blurred. Farfan, while eating and hearing his wife's voice, would have only one word echo in his heart: if she's not mine, then who am I spending my nights with? On the other hand, Nashira and Nashwa were also burning in the same fire. Each night they silently asked themselves, is this man my husband or my brother-in-law? They couldn't speak these questions aloud, but their eyes sought answers every day and returned empty every night. The noise of the day remained the same: people, streets, conversations, but the silence of the night now felt like death. All 4 hearts were crushed under a burden, as if they were living under the shadow of a great sin or grave mistake. The doubt was no longer just a question, it had become a punishment for their souls. Time kept passing. It had been several weeks since the marriage, but the confusion in their hearts only grew deeper. Every night the same question would arise, and every morning they would try to bury it. Then one evening, Rafian and Farfan stopped on their way back from the fields. Embarrassment filled their eyes. Their faces showed restlessness, as if the truth within them could no longer be contained. In a soft voice, Raytheon said, "Brother, we can't live like this anymore. Every night I feel I'm with someone else's wife." Farfan lowered his head and replied, "Yes, a broken bar, and the woman next to me, is she my wife, or my brother's? Thinking about it feels like a sin now." Nashira and Nashwa could no longer hold back either. They were burning in the same pain. "The man we sleep beside, a broken bar, is he our husband or our brother-in-law?" That night, these very questions brought the four of them together in the corner of the hut. For the first time, they all sat down to speak their hearts. Raytheon spoke, "We must face the truth. Are we really with our wives?" With a trembling voice, Nashira said, "We don't even know who our husband is and who our brother-in-law is." That night, they all confessed the truth they had kept hidden in their hearts for so long. There was no certainty, a broken bar, no clear identity. The biggest reason was that tiny huda, a single room, one roof, no curtain, no wall, no section to separate who slept where. In older times, such simplicity didn't raise questions. But now, that same simplicity had become their trial. Then, they made a decision. "If we've made a mistake, it's not out of intention, but due to circumstance. From today, we won't dwell on who we are with. Whoever destiny has brought to USA we will accept." Nashira and Nashwa nodded silently. "We, too, won't question whether we're with our husbands or our brothers-in-law." But those were just words. Deep inside, the same questions continued to echo. "The one I sleep with, is he truly my husband in the eyes of God? Is my wife only Mania or also my brother's?" Their hearts shared the same agony, the same stabbing pain. And that was the moment all four realized that this is not right. After many nights of loneliness, silent breaths, and unrested hearts, they made a final decision. Raytheon and Farfan could no longer live in this incomplete entanglement. One evening, the two brothers sat together, one silent, the other sorrowful. Then Farfan softly said, "Brother, we need to separate. If we live apart, maybe the doubt, the fear, and this sin-like feeling will lessen." Raytheon remained silent for a while. Then, taking a deep breath, he said, "Yes, at least we'll have peace knowing the woman we are with may really be our wife." A few days later, Farfan cleared a small patch of land. He gathered some old wooden beams and built a new hut with his own hands. Just 4 walls, a roof, and a tattered door, but to him, it was a new beginning. A hope that maybe things would now get better. Raytheon stayed in the old hut, and the two sisters also separated, each with her own husband. Some villagers said, "Good. Now the issue must be resolved." But it wasn't. Sitting in the new hut, Farfan would turn in bed at night and wonder, "Am I really with my wife, or is the woman still in my brother's home the one who truly belongs to me?" Raytheon too, looking at his wife's face, would wonder, "Is this the one I marry, or is the one who went with Farfan my real wife?" There was a wall between the two brothers now, but the confusion in their hearts remained alive. Farfan would smile sitting at the edge of the bed, but his heart knew that smile was only for show. Deep inside, he was still untangled. The decision to separate brought momentary peace, but that peace too had now become a burden. Raytheon still lived in the old hut, where every wall bore witness to his doubts, and every corner held memories of lost identity. Farfan lived in a new place, but even that place now felt like a prison, for the woman he shared it with still had an uncertain identity. Each night as he lay beside her, the same question echoed. "Is she my wife, or have I been sleeping with my sister-in-law all along?" Raytheon too would ask himself every morning, "The woman with me broken bar, is she really Dionia, or has she gone to Farfan?" Nashira and Nashwa lived in the same unease and doubt. Time passed. More than a year had gone by, but the question in their hearts still lived on. In solitude, Nashira would break into tears. "Am I truly with my husband, or has my brother-in-law been close to me each night?" Nashwa's lips remained sealed, but her eyes spoke. "The man on whose chest I sleep, is he my husband or my sister's?" Then one day, all four decided to sit together once again. This time, their faces were tired, their hearts burdened, and their words trembled on their lips. Raytheon said, "We need to talk again. This doubt has now reached our souls." Farfan lowered his head and asked, "Are we truly with the ones who belong to USA, or have we been living our lives with each other's wives?" Wiping her tears, Nashira said, We don't know who our husband I saw and who is our brother-in-law." Nashwa's voice quivered. "If only we had marked something on the wedding night as some sign, some difference. Maybe today we wouldn't have to face this." But time had passed. Over a year was gone. There was no photo, no identity, no remembered voice or word that could confirm who belonged to whom. Once again, the four sat together, hoping that maybe this time a solution would arise. But now, the light within their hearts had faded. All doors had shut except for one, the one that only truth or divine mercy could open. Evening was falling. The air was cold, but the chill inside their hearts had begun to touch their very bodies. After separation, after repeated talks, after trying every path of the now broken bar, no solution remained. No identity, no sign, no memory, no distinction in voice. Now, there was no way to truly know a broken bar.